What is up, guys? This is Dirtsheet clocking in again from the Spoiler Alert Network, coming at you with something that's a little bit new, a little fresh. Honestly, something that is new to me personally, for sure. This is a review, in a sense, of the new Joker movie that came out about a week ago. Obviously, obvious spoilers ahead. I wanted to let you guys know if you have not seen the movie yet, I will be talking about the plot and some of the key things that happened in the film that I personally enjoyed. Now, I don't even know if I really want to call this a review. This is just me dorking out about this movie because I really enjoyed it, and it absolutely dashed every expectation that I had set. I went in with low standards, and it blew everything out of the water. I loved this movie, and I'm going to be telling you guys why I enjoy it and why I think you should go see it if you are a comic book fan. Even if you're not a comic book fan, if you're a casual viewer, this is just a very, very good movie, very in-depth, very moving, and I really recommend it to everybody. So let's start talking about it. Okay, so the first couple things I want to state about this movie are the fact that this is a very unbiased review because I had no expectations for this movie, not one. I went and seen it because I was bored, essentially. Okay, when this movie was announced way back months ago, I don't know when the release date was announced for it or whatever. When we had the first official trailer, that is how little I followed the production of this movie. Is that I didn't like it for two reasons. One, Warner Brothers. Anybody who knows me personally knows that I have been very underwhelmed myself with the DC Cinematic Universe. It could have been very special, but it was squandered and they just threw it away. And then two, the Joker, of all people, having an origin film, which kind of bothered me because the core concept of the Joker's character in comic books and even in cinematic movies in the past is that he is shrouded in mystery and we do not know much about him. The Joker doesn't know much about himself. That is what makes him unique. He is a very unique character because even minor characters in almost all the comic books have some sort of backstory. We know their drive, we know their motivation, we know what they're aspiring to be. We don't know much about the Joker aside from the fact that he is insane and he does not know what his motives are, really. So giving a character like that an origin story kind of undoes all the ties that he has, and it destroys that foundation that you built for the character. And again, like, not like any of this matters. It's not like, you know, they're still going to make money even if I don't like the character of the movie. But those are the reasons I was not excited for this film. And I didn't even decide to go see it until about 2 or 3 weeks ago when a couple of buddies of mine were like, hey, it looks really good. Another one actually went and seen it. He said it was phenomenal. So I was like, fuck it, whatever, you know, I'm bored, it's Saturday night, let's go see the Joker. And it destroyed every expectation that I had set, or lack thereof, I should say, because I went in just expecting it to be a hot dumpster fire and not really entertain me at all. But this was one of the most moving films that I have seen in recent date. It was phenomenal, it was very powerful, it had a strong message. So let's talk about the plot. So, for the plot of the movie, we follow the character of Arthur Fleck and his descent into madness, really. And we see his transition from a everyday citizen into the character of the Joker. And Arthur is a comedian or clown who is really not funny at all. So he's kind of having a tough time making money because if you're going to be a comedian, you kind of got to be funny. One of the best jokes in the movie for me personally was his mom at one point in the movie was talking to him and she literally asked him, she said, well, to be a comedian, don't you have to be funny? And I thought it was hilarious. I was like, off, Mom. Thanks for dashing your child's dreams, you know. But anyways, we follow the character, we follow the story of Arthur Fleck, and we see that he's just having the worst time. He's not having a great time at all. He gets just beat down and pummeled by life every day, whether it is the city of Gotham, his job, his mental health, or people within the city of Gotham. Like, for example, to start the movie, we have a scene where he is twirling a sign outside of a place going out of business, and these kids come, steal the sign from him, lure him into an alley, smack him with the sign, and then kick him while he's on the ground, take his stuff, and run off. You just kind of get the sense that Gotham is not a fun place to live and that nobody there is really having a good time. They're just kind of doing their best. So that's how we start the movie, and then we see that he lives with his mother in just this dreadful apartment in the slums of Gotham, and we see that his mom is expecting a letter from Thomas Wayne, and she states that if she can get out, if she can get a hold of Thomas Wayne, Thomas will help them and lift them from poverty because she used to work for Thomas Wayne. We don't know what's in the letters because we never see one. We don't see one coming back from Thomas for a long, long time. And then at one point in the movie, this is where things kind of get dicey. Things start to look up for Arthur for a minute. He actually gets into a relationship with this girl that lives down the hall from him in the apartments, and then he goes on stage at a open mic night, and he kind of has a meltdown because he suffers from this illness, I guess you would say, or condition. It's an uncontrollable laughter or fits of laughter, I guess. The laughter doesn't match the emotions that he's feeling. So he will burst out into laughter at times when he really shouldn't. So he's on stage and he's having a hard time telling a joke because he's laughing so hard. And then he's flipping through his notebook of jokes, and you see a naked chick in there. So we know that jokes aren't all that Arthur has inside this book of jokes. We don't know what other creepy things he keeps in there. But things are starting to look up for him a little bit. And then everything gets dicey. It's like he has this slight peak and then bam, right back to the bottom. Someone that he works with for whatever reason gave him a gun, and for whatever reason Arthur carries that gun around with him at all times, even though he should not have a gun because he's mentally unstable. So he takes the gun with him to perform as a clown at a hospital for a bunch of children, and the gun falls out of his pocket and hits the floor. I don't know what prompted him to take this gun to a room full of sick children. I don't know what you would need protection from. I get that Gotham is a bad place, but what's going to happen? Is little Timmy over here, who's suffering from cancer, going to beat you up and take your lunch money? I really don't understand why you would take it. So it falls out, and then his boss gets a call, fires him, and Arthur loses his job, and then he goes home, and it gets a little worse because his mom asks him to mail a letter that's on the table to Thomas Wayne, and Arthur gets a little nosy, opens the letter, and sees that it is his mom talking, and I don't want to say accusing, but claiming that Thomas Wayne is the biological father of Arthur Fleck. So this is kind of a big twist at this point in the film. It really got me. I was like, okay, so you're going to tell me that Bruce Wayne and the Joker are brothers? Is that what you're trying to convince me? Because off. But so Arthur kind of flies off the deep end and confronts his mom about it, and his mom claims that him and Thomas were in love and that he said that nobody could know about them, so she signed a bunch of papers to never talk about this ever again, blah blah blah, and that's the end of that, and they've been living in the slums ever since. So Arthur decides to kind of investigate on his own, and he shows up to Wayne Manor, and he runs into little 10-year-old Bruce, and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm your brother. I'm going to shove my fingers in your mouth. And he just, like, plays with his gums a little bit. It's a little weird. It's kind of an uncomfortable part of the movie, because Arthur's, like, a mid-30s dude. He's pretty old, and little Bruce Wayne is getting his face fingered. And then Alfred actually comes up and splits them up, and he starts telling Arthur that his mother is crazy and that he was adopted and all kinds of other stuff, and it just gets worse. Like, Arthur thinks that he found out something about his life, and then it's a complete 360, and no, a 360 would be back to the first point. It's a 180. It's a complete 180. So everything that he thought he had just found out, he finds out is false, and then he chokes the shit out of Alfred and then just takes off in a dead sprint, and he's gone. So that was kind of the heavy part of the movie, because you're not sure where it's going to go from here. We don't know if Thomas is Arthur's father, or if he's not, if his mother's insane, if she's not. We really don't know. But we did see 10-year-old Bruce. So, and then Arthur he does something bad. He does something real bad. He kills 3 guys on a subway. He was getting assaulted by 3 guys on a subway, and he shot him point blank, and then the other one actually got off the train and tried to run up the subway, and he chases this guy down and then empties the rest of the gun inside of his back. So this makes the news, and he's obviously, this is right before he got fired, and he is in his clown attire, and so all that is released on the news is that someone dressed up as a clown killed 3 guys. So the rest of the city takes it as a movement. So people start wearing clown masks, doing all kinds of crazy things, and just Gotham is getting a little out of hand. And then Arthur continues to hunt down Thomas Wayne to find out the truth. He follows him to a movie theater and actually stands in the bathroom because the bathroom is the best place to have these kinds of conversations. Stares him down while he's at a urinal, and then he says, "Don't you recognize me, Dad?" And that would freak out anybody in a bathroom. I don't want a 30-year-old man walking up to me in a bathroom and calling me Dad. That's just weird. So, and then this is where Thomas reiterates what Alfred said, and he tells Arthur that his mother was insane, made these false claims, and he tells Arthur that he's actually adopted. So Arthur doesn't believe him. He tells Thomas to stop claiming that his mother is insane, and he goes on this rant about how he just wants a maybe a little bit of compassion or an explanation, stuff like that. And he's breaking down in the bathroom, and then he starts laughing because of his condition, and Thomas Wayne gives him a Hertz donut right in the face hole. He just socks the hell out of him. So we get the sense that it's not over yet between Arthur and Thomas Wayne. So while all this is happening, Arthur's mom is actually in the hospital because she had a stroke or a seizure or something like that, getting questioned by detectives. So she is not in good shape, but Arthur continues to hunt for answers to his past. And he goes to Arkham Asylum and he asks for the paperwork that is there about his mother so he can find out a little more about her mental health and his origin. And the clerk that is there giving out the paperwork is actually thrown off and a little uncomfortable, and he does not, you can see that he is very hesitant to release this to Arthur, so he tells Arthur that he has to have his mother in there to sign off so he can take the paperwork. Arthur says no, takes the paperwork, high legs it out of there anyways, runs down a couple flights of stairs and reads it, and he finds out that his mom was indeed mentally ill, had several mental conditions, and that she was in a very abusive relationship that she did not try to get out of. Arthur was adopted, and he was abused himself. At one point, there is read that Arthur was found handcuffed to a radiator with severe head trauma from being beaten so much. So she was hit with child endangerment, and then you just, it's not getting any better for Arthur, and we really see his descent into the character of the Joker. This is where he starts to lose Arthur Fleck, and he is fully embracing the Joker as his persona. So he goes back to the apartment complex and goes into the apartment of the girl that he has been dating recently throughout the film, and he sits on the couch. She comes out of her daughter's bedroom, and this is another real big twist. She says, "Aren't you Arthur? Don't you live down the hall?" And then we see that the entire relationship that Arthur had with this lady was in his head. He is that disconnected from reality, and we see it flashes back from scene after scene that we thought had both of them, but it was just him. He is imagining all of this. There was no relationship. We don't really know how out of touch with reality Arthur is at this point. We don't know what is real and what isn't real in this film. So he continues to descend into madness, and we see that night after night at his apartment. And then he gets a call to get invited onto the Murray Franklin show because somebody managed to record his night at the comedy club open mic night, however that works. This is in the late 80s, early 90s, so they'd just be carrying around a huge camera, and I guess this is the first time something ever went viral, because Murray invited him onto the show, and then you see Arthur accept the invitation, and his plan for the show is to have one final joke, and we see that he sets it up as a knock-knock joke, and then he kills himself on camera. He's going to do it on live television because he hopes that his death will have more meaning than his life. That's the point that he's reached. So he goes onto the show and he's backstage, and Murray comes back and he asks Murray to call him by the Joker. And this is where we see the birth of the Joker character. So he goes on camera, and then he gets real serious and somber, and he starts tearing into the corrupt society of Gotham, the corrupt system that is Gotham, and ripping on those who have more and are more fortunate but do nothing but stomp on the less, yada yada yada, stuff like that. And then he flat out admits to killing those three guys in the subway. And Murray is really thrown off, and then we see he kills Murray on live television. The entire studio flees, everybody runs off. Arthur is arrested, and then we see everything in Gotham just boils over. It has been on the brink of chaos for so long, and this just did it. Like this, it's out of control. We see Arthur being escorted in a police cruiser through the city of Gotham, and buildings are on fire, places are being looted, there's riots in the streets. It is just utter chaos. So then we pan to the theater, and we see another origin story within an origin story of we see Thomas, Martha, and Bruce Wayne leaving the theater, and then they go into the alley, and anybody who's ever read a comic book knows what happens from here. Random guy in a clown mask comes, shoots Thomas, shoots Martha, rips at the pearls on her neck. They're flying all over the place in the alley. Poor Bruce Wayne now has no parents. So, he now checks the criteria of superheroes. He doesn't have any parents. So then we see that's the origin for Bruce Wayne. So there's an origin story within an origin story. Then an ambulance slams into the cruiser that is escorting the Joker, and a couple of clowns get out, and they pull the Joker out of the cruiser, and he gets up on top of the cruiser and just basks in the glory and the chaos that he started, the movement that he started in Gotham. And then we get to the end of the film, and this is even more powerful. This is probably the most mind-boggling scene in the movie. He's in an asylum and he's laughing. We don't know at this point in the film what happened and what didn't. Like, he's that out of touch with reality. Like, we don't know if this revolution in Gotham actually happened or if it was all in his head. And that is a real that really messes with you, because you really get a sense of how out of touch the Joker is and how unstable he is and the bounds of his mental illness. So, and that is the end of the film. And this is just a very strong film. I really enjoyed it, and I really recommend it for everybody. The thing that I enjoyed most about this film is the fact that it is not an origin story for just the Joker or just Bruce Wayne, but it is an origin story for the entire city of Gotham, the corrupt city of Gotham, and you really, really sympathize with Arthur Fleck through the movie, and that is something that they really did good about building his character to a point where they put so much into him and made you feel so much for him and showed you so much of his story that you really don't know if he's the villain of the movie or if Gotham City is the villain and just took this poor everyday citizen and just beat him to the point where he just had enough and he snapped. So that's why I really enjoyed it. And you kind of sympathize and understand with Arthur Fleck's point. Now, granted, none of us should go out, shoot three guys on a subway, and start a revolution within the city that we live in. That's a little extreme, but to an extent, you really understand where Arthur's coming from and why he is so upset and angry with the corrupt societal structure in Gotham City. Okay, anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me again today. That is my thoughts on the Joker film. As I said, I highly recommend this movie to anybody who is a comic book fan, or who maybe if you're just a casual viewer and you're looking for a movie that will really, really mess with you. I recommend this film, even though I just ruined all of it in this video. It is still worth it. I will be seeing it again, that is for sure. And once again, thank you so much for the continued support. Thank you for joining me. We are the Spoiler Alert Network. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. And just remember to stay dedicated.